You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 185. Today, I speak with co-host of the Strong by Design podcast, public speaker, and former pastor of 20 years, helping people with practical, physical, and spiritual application of knowing and following God, Jared Haley, on being Christian in a digital world. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Faith Breathed Hope. I am here with Jared Haley. How are you doing, Jared?
Doing so good.
Good. I am so excited to have you here today on the show. The first thing I ask all of my guests is to just explore the topic of you, tell everybody a little bit of something about yourself, maybe
Sure.
that your audience doesn't know about.
Explore the topic of me. Well, um, people who watch our show or listen to our show know that I'm a dad. Family. We have 4 kids, and my wife and I both grew up in Denver, Colorado. We currently live in Clearwater, Florida. I was in ministry I guess, quote unquote, professional ministry until we moved down here 2 years ago. So I graduated with my undergrad in 2006. From there, I moved to Ireland, where I worked at a Methodist church doing youth and music at a church for about 2 years. And then I came back. My wife and I got married and been in pastoral ministry or music ministry or youth ministry, everything that you could probably do within a church. I've done it at one point or another. And so happy to be down here in Florida. We love it down here. Something unique about us. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what's a unique thing about us. We just started homeschooling this last year, which is a big jump for us, trying to figure out that whole deal. Another kind of fun tidbit is that my wife and I are working on a book together that we're hoping to get done by the end of this year. So we have lots of really cool things that God is doing outside of being connected with a specific church, and really feeling like God's opening up new avenues of ministry for us. So that's an exciting thing.
That sounds wonderful. Do you want to share the title of the book, or are you still kind of keeping that under?
We're still working on what it is. I mean,
Okay.
basically the idea of the book is being a spirit-led family. So what does that look like? What does it look like to cultivate and not just, it's not like specific do's and don'ts of parenting, but what does it look like to be a spirit-led family and incorporating that into everything that you do. We believe that the church should be supplemental to what's going on at home, and not the other way around. And really that's what we see primarily is, oh, if I want to learn about Jesus, I got to go to church. If I want my kids to know about Jesus, they need to go to youth group. And we believe biblically that's backwards. We want people to go to church, and we absolutely love bringing our kids to church and to youth group, and they love being there. But we want the primary focus to be at home. And I think that
Mhm.
scares a lot of people. I think that scares parents. And so
Right.
if we can, uh, our hope is to give you practical application about what this can look like for you in your home, and how to engage in a spirit-filled life yourself, and then be able to uh, cultivate your family within that same vein. So that's where we're going. We're very, very excited about it. We feel like this is something that God has called us to do, and we're excited for how He can use that to really show people that this is actually how God designed it to work.
Mhm. I tell you what, I for one am not afraid of that, and I'm excited. So I would love to share it once you get everything together
Yeah.
because as I was sharing with you, we too are a homeschool family,
Hmm.
and I have the same belief that everything starts in the home.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that.
You
Today,
bet.
we are going to talk about the way that Christians look at the digital world
Sure.
and what it looks like for a Christian to be on social media.
Hmm.
Um, this would be a hot topic of discussion, as a mom of younger children. I don't really care for my kids to be on social media.
Hmm.
And then we also have to monitor ourselves and our time that we're on
Hmm.
it. A lot of statistics have been put out there about different things that are happening in our society for mental health based on how much we're using the digital world, how much we're using social media. But then there's the other side of that especially from what I'm hearing in the business world, that, especially with AI and all these things, that it's just so good for your business. You can
Yeah.
tenfold your business or 10x your business rather.
Hmm.
And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, what this looks like for the
Yeah.
Christian family.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, there's so much there, and there's different ways that we can approach that. I mean, we can talk about it from a parenting standpoint and how we're supposed to handle that with our kids. We can also tackle it with from a business standpoint and handling AI and what we should be doing with that, and also just in general, addictive properties and those things that come along with social media, and even just not even social media, just your phone, right? I mean,
Mm.
I currently have been playing a game on my phone that it's just something that I sit down and I find myself opening it and playing it without even really thinking about it. And that's not healthy either. And so uh, we'll just kind of take it one step at a time, I guess. We'll start with just self. It's something that my wife and I just have noticed is we want to not just be physically present when we're with each other or with our kids, but we want to be fully present. It's something that we talk about all the time is being present. And what does that look like? Well, it doesn't look like being on your phone. It looks like engaging in whatever's happening. I know even for watching a movie together or watching a TV show together, if one of us is on the phone, it feels like they're not actually present or there with you. And so something that we've done in our house, we actually yesterday, I took the TV down from in our bedroom, so we're not going to have a TV in our bedroom anymore. It's something that we used to do a while ago, but just to we're going to have a no technology upstairs. So we have a lower level and upper level. We live in a townhome, and so all technology has to stay downstairs. We're going to get a regular alarm clock so that our phones don't go upstairs
Mm.
with us. And just it's funny how you don't trust an alarm clock anymore. We become so dependent on our phones that we're afraid that if we get an alarm clock, it's not going to work the way that we want it to. But hey, they worked for a really long time before we had phones, and I promise that it'll continue to work. And if you're afraid of the power going out, well, you get batteries and you put it in your alarm clock as a backup. So I mean, there's definitely ways around it as long as you're intentional about it. So that's one thing that we're doing in our home just to manage the addictive properties and the different things that come along with phones. We also have a basket that's like our technology basket. So we come in the door, and I'm not saying that we're perfect at this, so please don't misconstrue that we have this figured out. We're just as terrible as everybody else when it comes to being on our phones and things along those lines. We're just trying to find practical things that we can do to be intentional.
Mhm.
And if you're not intentional about it, then you just coast. And when you coast, you know, you're not thinking through why am I doing what I'm doing. And so uh, that's the whole purpose of all of this stuff. So that's how we're doing it personally. Social media, I think it's just a time suck. My wife just took a bunch of socials off of um, her phone. I think that you can still access a lot of these things through the computer, but for some reason, when we do it on a desktop, it doesn't suck our time as much. You have to be intentional to get on a computer, and then when you're there for a little bit, typically you don't spend as much time there. And so that's another practical thing you can do is just don't have the app on your phone. And it's not the same experience on a desktop, and I get that, but that's also a deterrent from wanting to stay on it too long. So I still like connecting with people and family through Facebook. We have our Instagram accounts where like I'm putting my our podcast reels and things up there. I mean, there's there is positive value in bringing light into the darkness, and so I don't want to completely remove that, but at the same time, I don't want it to overconsume me, and I want to be in control of it as opposed to it being in control of me. So those are some of the ways that we're handling some of that stuff. When it comes to our kids, man, my wife oversees the clubhouse at our church, and that's everything up until elementary school. So the babies up through the toddlers and preschool. And there's one of the, I think, a 5-year-old girl that just had a birthday, and her parents gave her a phone for her birthday. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what in the world? Um, our oldest is 12, and they have a little like T-Mobile watch phone that all it can do is text and call people. It can't do anything else. It's just so that they have a form of communication if they're we originally got it when they were going to school so that one of them could have it at school in case they needed to get a hold of us. Now we just use it if we're going to like this, I don't know, whatever. Really, it has a lot less use now than it did before. But
Right.
for me, there's no reason for our 12-year-old to have a phone. He doesn't need a phone. He has enough issues with wanting to play, the Switch. That alone consumes his mind and every 2 seconds can we play video games? Can we play video games? We've had to put boundaries around that. Hey, we only play video games on the weekends, and now our kids have to earn time, whether that's through chores or through reading. For every 60 minutes of reading, they can have 30 minutes of time on a video game. And even that, because we have 4 kids, they would each accumulate an hour of time, and then they would sit and watch everybody for 4 hours,
Mm.
and so we had to, create a rule on top of that that says if you're watching someone else play a video game, that counts against your time, so either you can play together for an hour or go do something else, and then you can have your own time, just because kids are tricky like that. Um,
Yeah. Smart like that too,
that's
right?
right. But I just there's no reason for him to be consumed with the phone. And people are like, well, all the other kids are going to have it, and what if they get made fun of, or what if they, are whatever the excuses might be. I'm like, I'd rather my kid be weird and safe and love the Lord and do all of these other things than be the most popular kid. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like having
Yes.
your priorities for your kids, and we're trying to cultivate them to be happy, healthy, joyful adults. And uh, statistics show that having a phone and a device and social media does the exact opposite of that. So, yes, it's easier to give them those things and just say,
Mm.
"Hey, you go do your thing, I'll do my thing." But I think that it's very the benefits to it are very low. Um, and especially I think Florida actually is coming out with a law where you can't actually have a social media account until you're 15 years old,
Oh, I
which
didn't know that. That's good.
that's something I just heard in like the last couple of weeks that I don't know if it's something that they're working on or it's gonna come through. But the reality is that the social media, not only the blue light and the things that it does to your brain, how nasty. I mean, kids are nasty. That's the reality. Is they're still learning themselves how to be socially appropriate, and they're still learning themselves. Uh, you give them too much too fast, and they don't know how to handle it. And we see that, and now we're seeing the results of that. And even though we see the results of that, people aren't making the necessary changes in order to fix the problem. And so for us, we haven't decided yet when they'll get a phone. I think it's going to be different for every kid. I mean, it's freedom equals responsibility equals love. I don't know if you've heard that before.
No.
Um, so freedom is based on responsibility. So if I'm proving that I'm being responsible, then I have freedom within my boundaries grow based on my display of responsibility. And then responsibility equals love. So that means, am I being loving to others, and am I being loving to myself? And so that's how we measure responsibility. And so all of those are at play working together. And it's not based on age, it's based on a child's development and character. And so as they grow and as they develop, we we will make our adjustments. In my mind, I want to give them a phone before they're 18 so that we can help cultivate and help them handle that in an appropriate way.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't keep things away from them forever. Otherwise, when they turn 18 and they leave the house, or they turn 20 and they leave the house, well, now they're off just figuring stuff out, and it's just curiosity based. And I don't want them to be just going and finding themselves into trouble because they're curious because we didn't allow it in our home. So I want to help walk them through how to handle these things in a healthy way, but at the same time, the balance of them being mature enough to handle it.
Right.
It's a lot of, man, that's like a shotgun of information. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of, I have a lot of thoughts on it. And we're not the absolute end all expert on it either. You know, our oldest is 12 and we're figuring it out. This is just how we're trying to manage it ourselves.
Mhm.
And I always fall back on God knows my kid better than I do. And so, if we're talking about being a spirit-led family, then there's nothing in the Bible that says your child must be 15 years old before he can get a cell phone. That's not in there. You're never going to find that in Scripture. But what is in Scripture is Jesus says, come to me. And he said, I have sent the Holy Spirit to be your helper. And God knows what's going on. So as we are cultivating our relationship with Jesus, we can learn to hear God's voice and we can begin to ask him these questions. God, what's appropriate for my kid? And give me the wisdom to know how to walk my kid through this in a healthy way.
Mhm.
And God's faithful to that.
Yes. So many things that you say, my head is like, yes, yes, yes. All of it is yes. I just recently went to a conference for anxiety and depression for
Hmm.
kids and preteens, and the statistics are just astronomical on the suicide rates, for teens, and they're seeing correlations between. Now, I don't have the statistics in front of me right now, but we were seeing the statistics where it was showing the correlation between like when kids first started getting cell phones available to them.
Hmm.
It was around 2012, or when more did, and now, and the rates have just gone up.
Hmm.
And we know a lot of kids who are 5, 6 years old that have a cell phone. One of the little dancers at our studio told me that for Christmas she got her third cell phone. I think she's maybe 6, she might be
Yeah.
7, but still, I'm like, wow.
Hmm.
But we had to make that decision too, and we're learning the hard way. Just having one phone for all 3 of our kids, so that if we
Hmm.
had to run an errand or anything, because
Right.
you have to know that they're safe.
Yeah.
So then comes the conundrum where you're just, well, I don't want them to be available to do all these things, because our 12-year-old, he won't necessarily do that. But then
Hmm.
9-year-old is a girl, and she wants to get on there and call her friends and all these
Hmm.
things. So we're having to back off, and say, hey, now we have to put in the boundaries. So it's probably
Hmm.
a good idea to do that prior,
Hmm.
think it out. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? You
Yeah.
have to do it as you go.
Hmm. And it's never too late, right? Like, I mean, if you see a problem, you make adjustments. And I think you explain, like, we're very intentional to explain to our kids, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And with some stuff, we just make the decision. With other things, we bring them into the decision, because we want to help cultivate their relationship with Jesus as well, and we want them to learn how to hear God's voice. And so there are things like, I don't know, a hot topic might be like Harry Potter. Like, what do you do with Harry Potter? Hey, this is magic. Is it going against da 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 da? And different people have differing ideas about how to handle that, right? And so we
Mhm.
just brought our kids in and we said, hey, let's pray about this. Let's pray about, let's have God speak to you about, is this something that is good for you? Is this something that is uplifting for you? Is this something that is going to benefit God and his kingdom? And ultimately they came to their own conclusion of, and we've been praying about it and we just feel like we shouldn't be doing this anymore. Like, okay, that's great. And that was their decision. And so I don't want it to be like we're withholding all of this stuff from them again. And then, it's like such a tight ship that when they get out, all of a sudden they go crazy, we don't want that for them. We want them to learn to bring things to Jesus themselves, because the world's always going to be throwing new things at us, right? As we like AI, how do you handle AI? I can tell you that my wife hates it with a passion, probably for the same reasons that you kind of alluded to already. Just all the scams and the deception that can come from it. It's kind of creepy what they can do already, and so it's only going to increasingly get worse of what uh, you know evil people take good tools and use them for evil. So I mean, and the I don't like giving them more tools to play with.
Right. Well, I mean, we all have different opinions on things. I think with AI, it's for me, it's right now at least a no-go because I had just questioned, like you said, good people can be tempted. And
Hmm.
even though it looks like it's in a pretty package, it seems like it's going to help, especially like we said with business. Maybe you can get further. You don't have to spend as much
Hmm.
time writing all of the episodes, even on your podcast, it'll write
Hmm.
it for you and all these things. But is that God speaking through you? No, it's
Hmm.
it's the computer coming up with things that it thinks that you're supposed to say. It's not
Hmm.
allowing yourself to be used by the Lord to pour into other people. So
Hmm.
there's that, and then there's just a host of other things. And I remember I brought it up to somebody when it first came out, and I said, as a Christian, is there something that you think ill with this, or does it make you kind of turn your head or whatever? And because I had been hearing a lot of Christian coaches talk about AI, and I thought, well, that's kind of different. And she said to me, it's not any different than computers.
Hmm.
Everybody was scared about any kind of technology. I guess it comes
Sure.
up because it's new. And if somebody were to come to you at that, maybe we should use your kids, because you're not going to speak necessarily into a stranger's business or whatever. But if it was somebody that you love, somebody that you cared about, and they came to you and they said something about it, um, what could be your rebuttal for that? What could, if somebody's like, well, it's no different than X, Y, or Z? I mean,
Hmm.
because we try to teach our kids all the time, hey, you're watching a movie and a bad word comes on, and you say, oh, well, it's just this one time.
Hmm.
But then, you do it a couple other times and it's still that one time, but then you become comfortable with it. So the next time you hear two or three bad words or different bad words. And so you become desensitized to it. And so
Hmm.
just to be aware and protect your heart, kind of a thing. Um,
Hmm.
so I guess maybe in your parenting, how would you choose to explain that to your kids or someone else that you loved?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is new. And it is, I mean, we have to be careful with the word AI too, because we think of artificial intelligence and we think of like the Will Smith movie, I, Robot.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, they're smart tools is what they are. They're computer tools. And there are some tools that I think are great. I mean, there are tools that I do video production for Critical Bench here, and so there are certainly tools that we utilize in order to streamline editing processes. And the thing that I don't like is using a computer to represent yourself or to represent somebody else. And I think that you kind of hit it already, where it's no longer you. It's almost like accepted plagiarism as long as the computer's doing it. And I was at a conference this last week as well, and the guy was talking about how with the new chat GPT, it actually learns your voice so that it actually is writing in your voice. Um, yeah, I I don't know. There's something in my spirit that just goes. "Ugh," there's something there that feels off. And I mean, already that they're. I think I I didn't see this. This is coming through third party. I heard someone like use Joanna Gaines maybe to like promote something that she'd never actually promoted and then tricked a bunch of people. And so, I mean, there's just so many things that it's unregulated at this point to where
Mhm.
maybe down the road it'll become more regulated and there'll be but really it's kind of the wild, wild west at this point, And so it's like, I don't know what to trust and what not to trust. And in a world where it's already confusing, like to know
Right.
what's true, what's not true when it comes to news and media and what's going on in the world, like it just seems to me like it's fuel for the fire of not knowing really what's going on and to be able to control and confuse people.
Mhm.
And so I get it from a business standpoint that you don't want to get left behind. And if all these other businesses are using it and you're not using it, and all of a sudden you get, your business gets crushed because you didn't use AI, is that a problem? It could be, but at the same time, what's more important, is me being faithful to what God is asking me to do, or me making sure that my business makes billions of dollars. And so I think from the history of the world, you see businesses that are flourishing that are not God honoring businesses. You know what I mean? So just
Yeah.
because a business is doing well doesn't mean that they're doing it the way God's way.
Right.
And so that can't be our measure of standard. It has to, again, having that spirit-led life means you have a relationship with Jesus and you're bringing these things to him and saying, God, is this good for me to use this, or is this not good for me to use this? And I think that we have to trust that God and his sovereignty and God and his faithfulness to us will give us that wisdom and discernment.
Absolutely. We pray for that wisdom in all of our decision making. But somebody had told me or brought to my attention in making a decision in the last couple of weeks that when we are tempted to do something, and we think of the word tempted, it could be all kind of things. It doesn't have to be, hey, you're tempted by drugs or alcohol or something,
Hmm.
nefarious. It could be something as simple as trying to do something to make your business better or help do something within your home even.
Hmm.
But there are two sides of that coin where you say, oh, I don't know, I don't feel settled inside my spirit to be able to make this decision. And it was brought to my attention that when we don't choose to take these things that may seem easy, that may seem like the first choice, it's an opportunity for us to just trust God for his provision. And so it may be very difficult to say, hey, this looks like it makes sense. This, it would be so easy just to say yes to this, and
Hmm.
things would work out the way that we think that they should work out. Yet if I say no, I know there will be a little bit of a struggle, but I also know that it's an opportunity for me to let God know that I trust him and allow him
Hmm.
to open those doors and show his
Hmm.
vision.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I know that anything that goes out that has my name on it, I want it to be genuinely from me, and not artificially generated. So,
So, Jared, can you tell my audience where they can find you and anything else that you want to share?
yeah, I just live on the streets of Clinton. No, I'm just kidding. No, so the podcast that I help co-host there's is called Strong by Design.
See
It's
that?
a podcast where we believe you were made in God's image to be strong in mind, body, spirit. And so we have multiple hosts. We have Coach Chris that's talking all about physical fitness, and we have Coach Tanya. She's talking about holistic health and nutrition and really tackling that kind of a thing. Our owner is Mike Westerdahl. He'll talk stuff like mental fitness and leadership and entrepreneurship. And then I cover all of our faith and spirituality and family stuff. So we're all over the board, but we believe that all three, being made in God's image means that we're three parts in one, just like God is three in one. We're
Mhm.
mind, body, and spirit, and they're all intertwined and work together. So if I'm not physically fit, it's messing up my mental and spirituality. If I'm not spiritually fit, it messes up my mental and physical. And they're all hand in hand working together. And so we want to be strong in all those areas of our lives. And we believe that we are created to be strong. And yet, because of sin and because of ourselves, we end up becoming weak. And so it's helping people get back to that original design of who God made you to be. And so, yeah, you can go to Strong by Design podcast. We're on YouTube, where everywhere you listen to podcasts. And we have our website as well, strongbydesignpodcast.com, where you can go and check us out. But my personal Instagram is Jared's Aria. And you can find me there for all of my, I always post little clips from the show as well, just trying to inspire and encourage people through my personal platform as well.
Sounds great. So go ahead and check out Strong by Design and Jared's Instagram as well. Thank you, Jared, for being on Faith Breathed Hope.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed it. And guys, we will continue to be blessed and bless others, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.